Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
So, today is our the sixth session, the sixth lesson of our mentorship program on LinkedIn lead generation. Today, our topic is about dialogues, about what happens after a lead gives their first response to your automated outreach. So, you do the outreach, right? You've gathered the audience, written the sequence, launched it, and now you're starting to get replies. So, what do you do with them next? The first and most important thing to understand about a lead from LinkedIn, about what's happening with them when you write to them, is that this is not the kind of lead that comes from contextual or targeted advertising. This isn't the lead who Googles you or uses ChatGPT on you somewhere on the internet. And this is a lead you wrote to. And if they reply to you, they understand in principle that they have such a need, but it's not a fact that they are already solving it, or they may already be solving it somehow, but your offer, in theory, could be better for them. So, a generated interest from a lead is only the first step of the lead generation stage. Then the most interesting part begins. Then begins the process of guiding this lead through your funnel. And here, the main thing, first of all, the main thing is not to try to qualify the lead theoretically. That is, roughly speaking, as many businesses do, they do a LinkedIn outreach and the leads respond with interest. Then sales looks at the LinkedIn profile or the company profile and says, no, no, this is not our lead. They won't buy from us. We won't communicate with them. This is the first mistake that many people make. You shouldn't do this because until you qualify this interest into a real lead, you won't know if they can be your client because they might be starting a new project or working for several companies, or this company might have received investments and you think they don't have a budget. So,
Well, and in the end, objectively, let's remember that not everyone keeps their LinkedIn profile, at the very least, completely up to date. A lot of people just forget to update it.
yeah, so if a lead has started a dialogue with you, well, don't stop this dialogue. You have to guide the lead further to your CTA. And the CTA, yes, it can be either a meeting for a demo or for consulting or for an audit. Well, depending on what you're selling, that is, you should have, we already discussed this when writing sequences, that you should have a useful action in the offer to which you, as a CTA, draw the lead. That is, roughly speaking, if you offer some kind of process audit, then your task is to bring them to this audit, meet with them on Google Meet or Zoom, and then sell there. Through value, showing how great you are, that you understand their business, and so on. Leads on LinkedIn. No, well, 50%. Okay, there are those leads to whom you just give a link in the outreach to, say Google Meet on Calendly or HubSpot. It doesn't matter. They book, you meet, that's great. You don't need to follow up with them or anything. They came to the meeting and then you sell to them. But still, about 50% of the total number of those who even respond with interest, who say, man, this is useful, this is needed, let's talk. In the process of getting them to a useful action, to a meeting, they get lost, they forget about you, they don't have time. And often salespeople write just once, like, okay, let's talk. Here's a link to my Calendly, go book it. Or even worse, here's my phone number, you call me. Well, you should never do that. Or book on Calendly, the person doesn't book. Well, and what do? We decide that if the person doesn't book, it's probably not relevant for them, so we just leave them alone. That's wrong. You need to follow up with the lead, remind them about yourself until you get some kind of response. Because for us, for salespeople, the final definitive answer is what's important. It can be positive or negative, it doesn't matter, but there has to be one. So we're going to keep pestering this lead with our info triggers until we get either a yes, let's do it, and a scheduled call in the calendar, or a no, not needed, not relevant, I don't want to, get lost, leave me alone. That's it. Okay. If they say don't touch, we don't touch. But as long as the lead is hesitant or is silent and not responding, we constantly come to them with new follow ups. We have records where people bought our services or product after a year and a half from the start of communication, meaning a year and a half ago, we sent someone a message. They replied, yes, we're interested. And we started following up with them. At first, it was the first two or three follow ups once a week, then once every 2 weeks for another two or three follow ups. And then just once a month, we constantly remind them about ourselves until the lead writes, hey, thanks for not forgetting about me. It's actually very relevant right now. I'm ready to look and buy. But what's important in follow ups? It's important, Janya, for us not to just pour it on, right? Like, hi, you forgot about me. Hi, I want to remind you about myself. But to provide some info triggers. Janya, maybe you have some examples.
Objectively, you need to provide some info triggers. You need to provide content. You need to provide value. That is to just write, "Hi, how are you? You've forgotten about me here." Well, maybe once it might work, possibly. But in most cases, no, because, well, let's talk about uniqueness again. If you write something like, "Hi, just a reminder, just following up," and similar phrases that salespeople use, 90% of salespeople use them. Your message doesn't stand out at all. And this, firstly, reduces the chances of the message being opened because a person might have 20, 30, 50 more or less similar messages hanging there. And secondly, well, you haven't provided anything useful. You haven't reminded them of yourself. Even if a person opens that message, the chances that they'll scroll up through your conversation history and remember what you were talking about, well, they're not very high. So, accordingly, the follow up must provide some value. I mean, well, for example, we now specifically use content. And again, if we're talking about content, it shouldn't be something abstract like, I don't know, 5 most popular ways for lead generation in 2025. No, that kind of content isn't engaging. It has to be something truly useful with real insights that makes an impact so the person remembers it. Maybe they'll subscribe to your newsletters or your blog and so on. So it must provide value. That's a must.
Right. The second option that works well with content is to use it between product or service updates because the best follow up is an update. So, well, roughly speaking, I come to you and say, "Hello, my name is Alexander. We automate LinkedIn and email outreach. We have this kind of functionality. Let's talk." You say, "That's interesting." Then you go quiet. Maybe a competitor reached out and offered you something that seemed better than what I offered. Or maybe you changed your mind about using automation. Or maybe something was missing for you. You watched our videos and you see that, for example, we're lacking something, like you can't send many emails. And now we have an update where you'll be able to send a lot of emails. And we'll go to everyone who told us they were interested and then disappeared with a follow up like, "Hey, we've updated. We now have mass emails, like 10 emails per LinkedIn account. We've added AI agents and other things. So let's talk." And from that, we'll get some conversion into a lead. Then in a month or two, we'll have another update. We'll go back to the ones we didn't get and say, "Hey, we have this new update. Let's talk." And we'll get another conversion. And so on and on. With updates, we can get new leads. If you sell services, then with services, usually, well, new functionality doesn't appear, right? But you can have, well, first of all, new services. That is, your service can be scaled. You might have started out doing only web design, and then you added development and have a case with CRM systems. So you went to CRM systems to say that we can connect and redo something for you, roughly speaking, right? Or maybe you only did targeted advertising and then added contextual or brand marketing, or something else was added, or some activity in terms of changing the monetization. So, roughly speaking, your service used to cost, say, an hourly rate, like 30, 40, or $50 an hour. And now you've made a package, you've made a product, right? And you can come and say, "Hey, I understand that hourly is difficult because you can't calculate the lead time. You don't know how many hours we'll spend and how much you'll pay us later. But we've created a package deal, and now you can know that you have a guaranteed cost like this. And I'm writing to you one of the first, and we'll even give you a discount. So let's talk." Well, for example, these kinds of news hooks are even better than the content itself. They generate leads very well. You really get, with each iteration of reminding old leads with a new updated offer, you always get a certain percentage of new leads that you're guaranteed to talk to and will have a chance to sell to them. That's the first thing. The second mistake in dialoguing with leads, and the second important step, is that you need to guide the lead through your funnel, but along the easiest path for that lead. So, roughly speaking, if your plan states that after the lead shows interest, after they tell you they're interested, you send, I don't know, some huge presentation. While in general, huge presentations are bad. They should be focused and small, tailored to the audience. But you want to sell the presentation, and the lead writes to you, "Hey, I'm interested. Let's meet tomorrow and talk." "Yes, yes, of course. Here's our presentation. Take a look, and if something suits you, we'll talk." No, you shouldn't do that. If the lead says, "Let's talk,"
I'll really draw special attention to this point because there was even a case once where they send a presentation with a note saying, "If you have any questions, then we can meet." So while the lead doesn't owe you anything, you owe the lead. You have to invite them to a call and you have to adapt to them objectively. Because, well, if someone wrote to me, look at the presentation, and if you have questions, then write to me. It's like they're saying, I don't want to deal with you right now. And I would immediately close that message and not consider anything else from that person. People buy based on trust. If at this stage they're not ready to give me their time, then what kind of potential cooperation can we even talk about? Not at all. I'm not okay with that kind of relationship. So at stages like this, I just close the chat and don't reply anymore. And maybe I'll even ban the person if they get too annoying. I don't really like to do that, but it happens sometimes.
Yes. So you need to conduct the process in a way that's convenient for the lead. If they want to call, give them a call. But if they want to get details from you without a call, your task is to still lead them to that call because, well, it's really easier to sell during a meeting. So, roughly speaking, if a person writes to you, okay, what's the price? You again shouldn't just give the price, but you should write the value, show them the price, and invite them to a meeting. Look, our system covers these and these needs. The cost depends on this and that. It can be from this amount to that amount. Let's meet, analyze your project, and then I'll make a commercial offer specifically for you. Well, roughly speaking, yes. So you answer the question and follow up to schedule a meeting. Or a person says, like, show me examples of your work. You show examples, you see what this potential client does, you understand their field, their potential interest. You show them examples and say, pay special attention to this example. This case is similar to yours, and well, it'll be relevant for you. We did this, and achieved such and such results. So you've shown a general presentation and emphasized a case that's perfect for this lead. Let's meet and analyze how we can implement this solution for you. Well, that's an example. Again, yes, it depends on the lead's question, but always answer in a way that you don't just give a dry answer and forget about them, but give an open ended answer. Show that the value you provide is greater than just the answer to their question, meaning the price, general case studies, and so on, and provide the next step. So, again, yes, the next step is that you always have to guide the lead. That is, every message, every follow up, and every answer to a lead's question must end with a call to the next step.
I'll add a little something here. Every message should end with either a CTA, call to action, or a question. But again, the question must be targeted. That is, asking at the end, how's the weather or how are you feeling? Well, that would be pretty stupid. So the question you ask the lead shouldn't be pointless. First, it has to be on topic. Second, it should still provide you with an answer, some additional information and food for thought, or a topic for the next step of the funnel. That is, you shouldn't ask a question mindlessly, just for the sake of it.
Yes, well, that's exactly what I was getting at, that you guide your lead through your funnel. And there can be two options. Either you immediately invite them to a demo, a trial, a meeting, or if it's relevant, for example, you see from the lead's questions that they are using your competitor services. A great question is, who are you working with now? Who provides you with this service? Who provides you with this product? Who is our competitor? Who are we competing with in our dialogue with you? Who do we have to surpass with our capabilities and functionality? I'm asking this because it will be relevant when we do a demo with you. I'll be telling you about the product and I'll emphasize certain points so you understand exactly how we are better. It's perfectly fine to explain it to the client like that. I do it often. Everyone tells me, so at least I know the breakdown of competitors.
But also consider this small point. Well, this is a topic for another conversation, but I'll add that your clients are not always objective in their choice of your competitors. I know this from my own experience because I also do demos quite often. And a client comes along and says, well, you or some other tool, it's all the same as what you have. You're no different. But I know what makes us different. It's just that the client, first of all, doesn't know about it. So you shouldn't take any client feedback about competitors or other partners at face value. It can give you some insights, it can give you some understanding of how a person from your field works, but in another company. But you don't need to take it as gospel.
Yes. So the main task here is that every lead you get on LinkedIn is worth its weight in gold. So when you see there's interest, that's it. You cling to them with tooth and nail and guide them until they either come to you for the target action, which is where you'll start selling, or they send you somewhere else. And also, after the meeting, after the target action, you also need to follow up. That is, roughly speaking, when the lead has already come to a meeting with you, talk to you, well, then the sales process begins. There, I think you should understand that this means follow ups by email, on the same LinkedIn, moving to messengers, various presentations, commercial proposals, and reminding them about yourself. Again, sending a commercial proposal after a call is not the final step, meaning you sent the commercial proposal and forgot about it, and that's it. You've lost the lead. No, you need to, again, even after the meeting, after the commercial proposal, if there was no direct refusal, you continue to follow up with them, as we said, every week, every 2 weeks, every month.
Let's also touch on a topic like when a lead is interested, you gave them Calendly, they booked a call, but didn't show up. Very often, what I see, well, at most people reschedule a meeting once, then they just give up on that lead. Objectively, from my own experience, I'm also skeptical about this in most cases. I don't like rescheduling meetings. I have a notification there that a person booked a call and either didn't confirm it at all, or if a person booked a call, confirmed it that very second, but then doesn't show up. My attitude towards the potential, how should I put it, the potential profit from this lead, it's quite skeptical. But there's a case where a person rescheduled a meeting about 10 times. I can't say for sure now if it was 8 or 9. Roughly about 10 times the person rescheduled the meeting. I didn't even want to go to it anymore. I had no hopes for this meeting at all. But at the same time, it turned out to be a fairly large agency. They signed up for a significant number of seats with us and are working well. So even from a meeting like that, there was a profit. Of course, in most cases, if a person reschedules a call for the third or fourth time, in most cases, nothing good will come of it. But let's look at the other side. To reschedule a meeting, you need to spend 10 minutes. 5 minutes you spend finding the chat with this lead and writing to them, like, "Hi, you didn't show up. Here's Calendly. Reschedule." And then you spend 5 minutes waiting in the meeting room at that time. So the question is, are 10 minutes of your time worth it to potentially close a deal? Of course they are.
Or the opposite story, when a lead shows up for a call, but it turns out that they are, well, not quite relevant. They came, they say, man, I need this and that. And you realize that you can't close this deal right now. And they often say, man, sorry, I can't close this. Goodbye. That's also a big mistake because, well, again, there's a real case where I was talking to a client for a year and a half. We met 5 or 6 times over that year and a half, and it just turned out that we weren't ready for each other. But every time I consulted this client from the perspective of my own experience and suggested how they could move towards reaching a level where lead generation would be for them, where it would be a relevant issue. And so after a year and a half, we again closed that contract and we're working together because the client finally built a product that the B2B segment needs, with which you need to enter this market. And we are now going to enter the LinkedIn market with them with a new offer to sell this offer. About a year and a half has passed. Really, we've known each other for a long time. We've been on a first name basis for a long time. But nevertheless, it was only now that we reached the point where it was time to start cooperating. Before, it just wasn't relevant. If I had jumped on it earlier, well, it wouldn't have brought any results to anyone. But I was just sharing my experience, which in principle earned their trust because, well, I have some experience, right, in similar niches. And so as a result, we are cooperating with this client. So there are different cases, and it's impossible to script them. To make scripts for all cases is impossible. There are situations where you seem to see that it's not relevant right now, but you see that this person in principle is reasonable. They are moving forward in business, and sooner or later, they can become your client. You shouldn't dismiss such people. It's good to work with them, guide them into your funnel. Sooner or later, they will come to you and you will work with them. And very often, it's precisely these clients who become your long term clients because after months of communicating with you, they already understand the specifics of the process, that it's a long term story, it's not built in 2 weeks, it works slowly, gradually, and so on. And they stay with you for a long time. And so that's also a very important thing, maintaining this long term trust. Recently, I was at an event where I was also a speaker, and we were working with the moderator there. And well, we came to the conclusion that compared to 2021, 2022, the number of touch points with a lead has changed a lot. If before they talk about the rule, 6 to 7 touch points before a lead buys from you. Now, for some complex B2B services like comprehensive service development and so on, they've calculated the total number of touch points, which includes messages, calls, website visits, studying commercial proposals, and so on. That on average, 21 touch points are needed to acquire a client for such a complex service. And I see this with us as well. Our most grateful clients are those with whom we've had several demos and who also read our content or watch us on YouTube. And as a result, they buy and stay with us for a long time because they understand how this process works and how our product works. So you have to understand that you won't make a sale just like that with a single cold message. You will generate a lead from a few messages, but then you will need to build their trust in you, sharing useful information with them, bringing them to your websites, webinars, some materials, showing them commercial proposals, showing them your case studies, similar to their business, and so on. Well, especially if you have a service. If it's a product that automates something, then case studies, well, that's not the same story. The main thing there is to show that it will save time or money or do more or something else. But if it's a service, then you need to show case studies specifically so the lead sees that you're an expert in their field, that you speak the same language as them. This is also a very important point. The only thing I'll add is the aspect of working with doubts and objections. Because very often, if a lead replies with, I don't know, or I'm already using something, or I don't know why I need it, or not right now, and so on, this is a reason to open a dialogue. That is, when they tell you, no, it's not relevant for me. I don't use things like that. Okay, if you see that it really might not be relevant for this business, you close the dialogue. That's it. If you see that the person doesn't use this, but you understand that your offer will bring them real profit, show them that they're missing out by not using it. If they use competitors, show that you are better than the competitor. If they don't have a budget right now or something else is missing, find out when they will have it and what budget they are planning, and come back when the time is right. So, any doubts and objections, except for the really harsh ones like get lost, don't write to me anymore, they require some degree of handling. Yes, the conversion rate is lower there. Many people either won't respond, and you don't need to chase them 10 times. You ask a question once or twice. If they don't answer, that's it. Okay, well, if you don't want to, you don't have to. But you should try once or twice because there are leads there too, and there are clients there too. And often, clients whom you introduce to a new tool, to a new source for them, and show them the profit from this source, the profit from cooperating with you, they stay with you for a very long time because, well, you've opened up a new world for them and you show them that it was possible. That's why they don't go to competitors, even if their offer is more interesting in terms of money, just because, well, you're already like family. So that's why this thing, handling objections, is also important. I just remembered a small point about handling objections, and specifically the case when a person says, it's not relevant right now. Let's get in touch later. So, later is a very, very vague concept. And what I see quite often is when a person answers like that, they are asked in response, so when is a better time to contact you? So I'm not a fan of asking such questions for the reason that a person might write, for example, contact me in 3 years. We'll have some replanning then, or maybe some project. So contact me in 3 years. That's it. We lose the opportunity to write, well, directly to this person. But we lose the opportunity to write to this person for 3 years because if we write to them in a couple of months, you'll get chewed out. Like I said, in 3 years, why are you writing to me? So in such cases, it's better to set the deadline yourself based on events. So let's say, for example, in September, a person wrote, let's get in touch later. I understand that, for example, at the beginning of December, there will be the end of year closing and budget planning for the next year. And I write to the person myself. Okay, deal. I'll write to you in a couple of months. And I write at the beginning of December because I understand that this is exactly when some budgets will be allocated. And maybe we can fit into those budgets. So they will consider us as well. So in such cases, set the deadlines yourself. And at the same time, we also write, as we agreed, I'm returning to this conversation in December. Let's meet this week and discuss how we can be useful to you. And in this way, it's quite good. Yes, the lead is converted into a meeting because, well, from their point of view, too. They wrote, let's do it later. You wrote, okay, in 2 months. They didn't reply. They usually don't. Like, well, you want to do it in 2 months? Okay. And then they look and think, damn, well, it seems we really did agree. I should talk to them. And they start communicating. So basically, Jen, what's next? Let's finish the lecture part. I guess that's all. Have a great end of the week. Good sales. See you soon and have a great day. Goodbye. Bye bye, everyone.